What's up and welcome everyone to the Fit to Fat to Fit Experience podcast. I'm your host, Drew Manning.
And I'm your co-host, Lynn Manning.
Thank you guys so much for joining us today. On today's episode, we sit down with Melissa Hartwig, who is the co-creator of the Whole30. For those of you who don't know what the Whole30 is, it's a 30-day program that helps you facilitate a better relationship with food. And it's kind of extreme. It's kind of more of a tough love approach,
yeah, it
but
is a little bit
works,
of a tough love approach. It's really interesting. We won't share too much here because we're going to get really into it with Melissa in just a few minutes.
Yeah, we talked to her about like what her biggest pet peeve is with the paleo industry. We talked to her about like, has she ever had paleo pancakes and kind of how she feeds her kid. She has a 2.5-year-old son, and how does she, as the creator of Whole30, feed her child? So it's a very interesting episode, but first and foremost, today's sponsors, first of all, is questnutrition.com. We are big fans of Quest Nutrition and their protein bars, their protein chips, their protein powder. They are taking over the protein bar industry.
It's because they taste so good.
They do taste good.
That's my big thing. I think most women hate protein bars because they taste terrible and chalky. And this was like the first protein bar I'd really eat because it tastes good, low in sugar, but it doesn't taste like it's low in sugar. So,
and
big
definitely,
fan.
If you are into pumpkin flavor, you have to check out their pumpkin pie flavor protein bar that just launched.
Everything pumpkin right now, you guys. Everything pumpkin.
Yes,
for sure.
And I do love their coconut cashew, which everybody knows. But anyways, the next sponsor, you guys, is dollarworkoutclub.com. Now, Dollar Workout Club is an online fitness program where you get access to 5 new workout videos, 5 new recipe videos, and 5 new motivational videos every single week. And all you pay is $1 a week.
You guys, it's an amazing program. We've spent hours upon hours creating this program with our good friend, Natalie Hodson. The workouts can be done at any fitness level. So hopefully you check that out.
Yeah, with minimal to no equipment. dollarworkoutclub.com. Okay, guys, let's go and hang out with Melissa. All right. Thank you so much, Melissa, for joining us today on the Fit to Fat to Fit Experience podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm so good this morning. How are you?
I am fantastic. We are fantastic. We're excited that you're joining us today. For those of you who don't know who Melissa is, let me just introduce her really quick. So Melissa is the co-creator of the Whole9, the Whole30. She's a New York Times bestselling author of the Whole30 and It Starts With Food, which are both, I've read both books and they're both amazing. And she is the best known for having the best hair in the business.
Yeah.
Is that correct? It's actually on your bio here. I see it on your bio right here.
She really does have amazing hair.
It's literally my only professional qualification. I have nothing else going for me, but I do have really good hair.
I mean, she's incredible in many ways, and she's obviously ridiculously intelligent. But I mean, that hair... Man, that hair.
So, Melissa, obviously we're going to get into the Whole30 and what it is because everybody asks you about that. And I actually have my own personal experience with it, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But first of all, how did we meet? How did you find me? I'm trying to remember how we connected because I know that you live here in Utah, but how was it? How did we meet? I'm trying to remember.
I think that's how it was. I think that I realized like I had definitely known who you were and what you had done through the Fit to Fat experience and Back to Fit. And then I think I realized you were in Utah and just outreached and was like, hey, like you're here, I'm here. We're both kind of doing this like changing lives thing and basically like invited you guys to dinner. And that's what we did.
That's right. We bonded over
food, which is how I bond. So that was nice. Yeah.
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 But I think if I recall what happened was I invited you to dinner and you were like, great, I'll bring my wife. And I was like, great. And then basically you were invisible at dinner because Lynn and I basically discovered that we were madly in love over
yes.
that.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened.
That is what happened.
We sat in the corner. We looked deeply into each other's eyes. We ate really good food. Yeah. And that was the beginning of our relationship.
Yeah. I think I said like 3 words and that's about it.
Yeah. It was all that was needed.
Yeah.
Really.
It was magic. Really. It was magical.
Yeah. And then I started reading your book, It Starts With Food, and everybody should pick up that book. That's the first book that they released, and I'll be honest, I'm not always that into the sciencey aspect of things, and this book, I read it pretty much from start to finish. I never put it down. I mean, aside from sleeping and eating, of course. But yeah, it's amazing. But to give us like in a nutshell, why don't you tell us what is Whole30?
Yeah, when people come up and ask you like, okay, they've never heard of it, what do you tell them in like a 2-sentence explanation?
Yeah, I got a 1-sentence thing, right? So basically you can think of the Whole30 like pushing the reset button with your health, your habits, and your relationship with food. So, that's my sort of one-liner. It's not a diet. It's not a weight loss program. It's not a quick fix, not in the traditional sense of diet anyway. It's essentially a program designed to eliminate foods that are the most commonly problematic in one of 4 areas. And we outline those 4 areas, and it starts with food, and I can get into them. And then you reintroduce those foods very carefully and systematically, one at a time, so that you can identify how some of these potentially problematic foods work for you in your specific context, with your health history, with your goals, with what you consider to be worth it in terms of foods that are delicious but maybe not that healthy. So the Whole30 is essentially the way to create the perfect diet for you.
Yeah, and that's what I like about it. And when people ask me what the Whole30 is, I try and give, that kind of explanation. It's not as good, but basically,
it doesn't sound anything like
that. It doesn't sound like that. I just say, hey, look, it's no grains, no dairy, no sugar, no artificial sweeteners, no whey protein, nothing
happiness.
Processed.
I'm kidding.
Nothing processed. And that's it in a nutshell. But what am I missing? No grains, no dairy, no sugar, no artificial sweeteners, no whey protein, nothing processed. Is there anything else?
I just tell people it's whole foods.
I think maybe on purpose you left off no alcohol. Maybe some of your listeners would not be that thrilled with that. I don't know if that was like a little Freudian slip, but no booze.
But you know what? Right after we say that, before they could speak, we say, but you can have coffee.
Yes.
And then it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you can have coffee.
Yeah. And I usually kind of try to describe like the program, the benefits of the program before I get into all the stuff you can't eat, because that list can sound very intimidating to a lot of people. So I usually focus on the positive, like what you're going to get out of the program, what you are eating on the program. And then, we kind of taught, once they get on board with like, yeah, that sounds really good. That sounds like something I could do. Then we get into the nitty gritty of like, here's what you're not eating for the 30-day period. And that's important to emphasize, is it's only 30 days, remember?
Yeah, and that's what I love about it. And I think that's actually really smart to lay out the positives first, because so many people just want to know, okay, what can't I eat? That's what they want to jump to. But giving them the positive benefits first, and then saying, okay, here's the details of what you can't eat. Because the way I try and teach people to eat is pretty similar, maybe not as strict as the Whole30, but people always want to know, okay, what do you want me to take out of my diet? So I think that's really smart.
I want her to quickly go through that, because I agree. A lot of times we don't focus on the positive, and we should, because that really is what's going to propel you to complete a Whole30. And so anybody listening that's considering doing something like this, why don't you briefly talk about a lot of the positives that have come from this program in people's lives? Because there's a slew. There's a huge list.
Yeah, there really is a huge list. The program, because the rules of the program address not only some of the physiological benefits we want you to achieve, but also really thoroughly address people's emotional relationships with food and cravings and bad habits. There's a lot of habit research built into the rules and the support that we offer. The benefits are really, really wide ranging. So very, very commonly reported, people's energy improves and stabilizes. So no more like 3 p.m. slump, no more needing that coffee and sugar. No more sort of prowling through the pantry at 9 p.m. looking for something sweet to satisfy those kind of either cravings or energy needs. People's sleep improves tremendously. That's something we hear. I'm falling asleep easier, sleeping longer, sleeping much better, feeling like I'm getting more restful sleep. People's focus and attention span improves, mood improves. People report like, I'm really happy when I eat this way. And of course, we know so much about the way that food and hormones impact our mood. Cravings are reduced. People feel like they don't have the cravings that they used to have. They're in control of the food they're eating for the first time. Skin improves. You hear a lot of stuff about skin, hair, and nails improving. Athletic performance and recovery improves. Any number of medical symptoms improve. So we've had complete reversal of type 2 diabetes. We've had people who, are no longer, they're managing their multiple sclerosis and lupus and Lyme disease symptoms just with dietary intervention alone. They're off their high blood pressure medication, off their cholesterol medication. We've had some incredible stories with kids and behavioral issues that have done complete turnarounds. Like the list goes on and on and on. So it's almost like there isn't any area of your life that changing your diet in this manner can't have a positive influence on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, basically, I'd be a completely different person. But hopefully, like with the same great sense of humor. But I mean, aside from that,
I know we're still trying to get Lynn to do a Whole30
course.
now. I'll
Drew
just give
has
my
done a
experience.
Whole30, so let's share that.
Yeah, so I did do the Whole30. Melissa challenged me to do it, and I'm always, you know me, I'm always up for a challenge. Like a 6-month gaining 75-pound challenge type of guy. So I decided to take on the Whole30. And to be honest with you, I eat pretty clean most of the time. The two things I found challenging with the Whole30 were no whey protein, which I have once a day. Usually I'll have like one Quest bar or one scoop of whey protein, and then the gum. That was really hard for me, is like no gum with the artificial sweeteners when I go to the gym, just because I'm self-conscious. I don't want to have bad breath, and I felt like I had to.
Drew is a close talker.
Have some gum, if I'm going to, when you work out, you get dry mouth sometimes, and especially doing CrossFit, afterwards I would just kind of put my shirt over my mouth as I was talking to people afterwards. And so those were like the hardest things, but the other things weren't too difficult for me. But here's the things I noticed. I noticed better digestion, which for me was amazing. It probably had to do with the whey protein being taken out, and the energy levels, like you mentioned, not having that 3 p.m. slump in the afternoon. Those were the two biggest things that I noticed from my Whole30. So I'm a proponent of it, and I know some people think it's really strict, but I think it's good just to do for 30 days, notice the benefits, and then from there, like for example, I don't chew gum anymore when I go to the gym. That's like one of the, I did start going back into whey protein, but not as much as I used to, and I'm just more conscious of it, and so every once in a while I'll take a break from whey protein. But the gum thing actually kind of kicked that habit.
Yeah. The gum is a really hard one for a lot of people. And sometimes it's about the, sometimes it's about the, I want my breath to be fresh, but more often than not, it's just habitual. It's just sort of this like habit. So the gum thing is challenging, but breaking that habit can be really good. I did forget to mention that one of the major benefits of the Whole30 is improved digestion. So less bloating, less digestive, upset, things kind of moving more regularly. And the program is really strict for those 30 days, but it has to be, because if you're trying to do this like scientific experiment where you evaluate, say, how whey protein actually does for you, you have to completely eliminate it for 30 days and then reintroduce it very carefully and systematically as the only factor. That's the only way you'll be able to know what your life is like without it. And then when you reintroduce it, does that reintroduction have a negative impact on any of the benefits you've seen over the last 30 days? So it's strict not because we're trying to be like a boot camp or some kind of hazing. We're strict because from a physiological perspective, if you're going to do an elimination diet, you have to pull it out 100% to really be able to fairly evaluate the impact.
Yeah. And for our listeners and, even for us, to kind of explain why that is, because I've had people say before when I've suggested that they do a Whole30 or something similar to that, they say, well, why can't I just take it out for a day or two? And I've gone to explain to them, it could take a couple weeks for some of these things to completely exit your body. Is that why you guys make it a full 30 days?
Yeah, that's a really, really big reason. Because if the potential damage that some of these foods have been doing to your emotional relationship with food, your metabolism, your digestive system, and your immune system can take many, many weeks to recover from. And in some cases, if you've got like an underlying medical condition, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, any digestive issues, if you've got any sort of hormonal imbalance, things like, pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetes, it's going to probably take even longer than 30 days in the absence of some of these potentially triggering foods, for you to really see the benefit. But 30 days is a compromise. It's long enough to see real and, tangible benefits from the protocol, but it's not so long that it seems unattainable. So it kind of comes a little bit from habit research where, the average number of days it takes to break a habit is 66, which is, when you add the reintroduction on, you're looking at like more than 2 months of this protocol, which can seem pretty daunting. So it kind of comes from both the physiological stuff and habit research. 30 days is like a really good compromise.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of getting back to my experience, and I have a question. Will there ever be a Whole30 approved gum? And if so, when?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. No, okay. So sad face for you. Probably not. That's not again,
He's making a
work
sad
so
face.
hard to change people's habits and change people's relationship with like food. I did say sad face. You know how I feel about emoji. So I basically just like say the emoji out loud instead of using them because I will not use them.
We'll put that in the show notes. We'll put a sad
Emoji.
face emoji in the show notes.
That's right. No emoji use here. I boycott. But, we're trying to change people's habits. And, the act of chewing gum, even if there's nothing bad in the gum, the act of like putting something in your mouth and chewing it for hours upon hours. And I know a lot of people who are serial gum chewers where like they pop a piece in, after a couple minutes, they throw it out, they pop another piece in. That act of chewing without actually eating and swallowing sends really powerful signals to your body that aren't necessarily healthy for your digestion. So because of the habit of it and because of the fact that we don't want you chewing without actually eating, no, I would never sign off on a Whole30 approved gum. Instead, we would look for alternative ways to help you feel like your breath was fresh and break you of that habit of feeling like you need to chew something. Very often that's a stress response too. People grind their teeth and clench their teeth and chew as sort of a manifestation of some stress or anxiety. So let's take a look at that and address that and just kind of break that habit altogether.
Man, she's going deep
touche.
now.
You got me.
You better move on from that.
Okay, kind of changing directions here. I want to get into the Whole30 on a different level because the Whole30 is what it is, but I want to know if you've had experience with people that have used it for other benefits trying to change the structure of it to fit their lifestyle. So for example, have you had people use it for intermittent fasting where they're doing the Whole30, but they're doing intermittent fasting where they're fasting for 16 hours and they eat in an 8-hour window or ketosis. So they just take out some of the starches like from potatoes and sweet potatoes and do the Whole30 for ketosis or veganism. So they're doing the Whole30, but without any of the meat or animal products. Do you have experience with that? Have people done that before?
People have kind of combined the Whole30 any number of ways with any number of other protocols. Whether I would recommend that is a totally different story. I actually just wrote an article that was published on Monday about Whole30 and intermittent fasting and whether you should combine those two protocols. And my stance is that you should not. The Whole30 is designed for a very specific purpose. It is to teach you how the food you are eating is impacting again, your relationship with food, your metabolism, your digestion, and your immune system. It's a very specifically designed protocol. When you start throwing other protocols kind of willy-nilly on top of it, it's going to be really like the more you change, the more it's going to be difficult for you to identify which factor is contributing to either the positive benefits or the negative. So, and I see a lot of people who gravitate towards intermittent fasting for entirely the wrong reasons. They tend to do it wrong, right? They're using intermittent fasting as a cover up for the fact that their hormones are simply out of whack. Like they wake up not hungry and they don't want to eat breakfast until 11 a.m. anyway. So instead of saying like, hey, there's something wrong with not waking up hungry, like that's not biologically normal, they say, oh, well, I'm just intermittent fasting. And like what you're doing is not IF, you're just not eating, right? If you're not making a conscious effort to get all your calories in the later part of the day, if you are doing it every single day, that's not very intermittent. And then again, intermittent fasting is a very stressful protocol. And I don't know a lot of people who can afford to add more stress to their lives at this point. So I'm not a big fan of combining those two protocols. Do one, learn the lessons that you need to learn from the Whole30. And then once you're in a place where you're fat adapted, where your stress levels are totally manageable, and I'm talking about you're sleeping 8 to 9 hours a night, you are not overtraining, you are recovering adequately, you don't have a ton of psychological stress, you don't have any medical conditions that may preclude you from intermittent fasting, then if you want to, you can play around with it. But man, that's not a lot of people who can meet all those criteria.
No one I know. Like pretty much absolutely no one. Oh, no, I love your response on this. Even though, we could probably do a whole episode on IF, on intermittent fasting. One of the key things that I just tell my clients, because I only work with women, and Melissa obviously nailed this right on the head, is the studies that I have done show that intermittent fasting specifically for women can create chaotic hormonal imbalance. So I just tell people to research the shiz out of it and really take a deep look at themselves, like you said, about, are you really in a place where your hormones are already balanced? Are you really in a place where you're getting a sufficient amount of sleep? And like you said, all of the key factors that would need to be in place to make it, especially for a woman, manageable and productive, rarely ever fit. So, I mean, we could probably spend like half an hour on that, but I really love your answer is what I'm going with on that. But
okay, so
I would say the same thing for a ketogenic diet too. Like, there are some very specific medical conditions in which a ketogenic diet is appropriate. It's shown to be very helpful. Certain types of cancer, you can design a very specific ketogenic diet to assist with. Certain kinds of neurological conditions, a ketogenic diet can really help with. But if this is your context, you had better be working with a medical doctor to design a protocol that's very specific to you and your context. So again, I wouldn't want someone going into the Whole30 and willy-nilly, like just cutting out all carbohydrate and seeing what happens. Like, use the Whole30 the way that it was designed. And if a ketogenic diet is appropriate for your condition, I need you to be working with your medical doctor, healthcare provider, or a qualified registered dietitian for that.
Would you say the same thing for vegans?
Well, so this is the thing, right? You can't do the Whole30 as written as a vegan. You can't, because you would only be eating nuts and seeds, vegetables, and fruit. And that is not a healthy, balanced diet. We eliminate all of the plant-based protein sources that a vegan needs. So what we've done is generally said, look, you can't do the Whole30 as a vegan, but if you want to implement pieces of our framework, the pieces of our framework based around eating whole, nutrient-dense, unprocessed foods that don't promote cravings, that don't promote overconsumption, like, if you want to embrace that framework, here are some ways you can do that in kind of using the like self-imposed limitations you have set for your own diet, which is that you won't eat any animal products. And so we've outlined a protocol, and we have had some people use the Whole30 framework within their vegan diet. Of course, they're still eating some plant-based protein, but they're kind of using best case scenario plant-based protein. So they're not doing all the processed soy burgers and the processed soy cheeses. They're doing mostly the whole unprocessed, like they're doing a fermented, organic, like non-GMO tofu and some of these, non-gluten grains. And they do really well with it, as well as they can within the construct of their own diets. But we kind of look at a Whole30 protocol plus veganism as sort of damage control. I firmly believe that you can't be optimally healthy without eating any animal protein. And so what we do is essentially say, look, I don't think your diet is, going to get you to optimal health, but let's make it as healthy as it can be within the confines of your self-imposed limitations. And that's how we approach that. But we try to be really welcoming about it, because we want everyone to feel like they can, participate in our community regardless of what's on their plate, because our community is really supportive.
No, thank you so much for addressing that, because those three things, intermittent fasting, ketosis, and veganism, are pretty hot topics in the, health and fitness industry. And, people are experimenting here and there with those things. So I just want to see where Whole30 fit in with those things. And hear your thoughts. So thank you for addressing that. Okay.
Yeah, and Melissa's response was so good.
I know, so good.
I mean, I was sitting there thinking, man, when people ask me, all I do is I say one thing. I say, I love bacon. And that's it. I mean, I'm going to re-listen to this and adopt Melissa's response.
Exactly. No, I thought it was so really good. And what's interesting is it's
almost like I do this for a living.
I know. Geez, what are you, a professional?
I know. I saw someone just ask you about, I recently just saw somebody ask you about intermittent fasting, and actually saw your response, which, by the way, I came up with my question before I saw that.
Sure, you did.
No, I promise I did.
Oh,
I just
cool.
thought it was cool that it was at the same time. Okay. Question about your son, Atticus, who is beautiful, by the way. You have a beautiful son, Atticus.
He's adorable.
Yes. And
I know. Thank you.
Yeah, seriously.
How do you approach, you being the creator of Whole30, and now you have a kid, how does Atticus eat? Do you make him eat Whole30 all the time?
No, we just pick him up McDonald's and stuff. It's fine, whatever. Just kidding.
No, but I mean, I think people want to know.
He's never eaten anything that isn't Whole30, with the exception of a little bit of added sugar, maybe in his chicken sausage, or Yeah, that might be it, you guys. He's never not eaten anything that isn't Whole30. He does clarified butter. He does, or ghee rather. He does like, he eats exactly what we eat, which is meat, seafood, and eggs, vegetables, and fruit. Even for his birthday, we've never done a cake. We've never done a birthday cake for him. He would like for his birthday last year, I baked like this little paleo, like apple crumble thing for him, thinking that, it would be like a little treat. He just wanted the burger. We just stuck a candle in a burger and he loved it.
This is the healthiest child on the planet. And you should have seen my face the first time I was with Atticus and Melissa, and she told me this child had never had a cupcake. My face was like, for real? But this kid, she's like, it's so funny. I see him like fisting like organic chicken sausage. Like he is such like a happy, you guys, that I know that people out there, and like, I'm very snarky. So like, I would joke around like, you're depriving this child. But the truth is this child is like the happiest, most well-behaved, completely healthy child on the planet. So, I mean, props to you.
And I just want to let you know, I totally respect that. Melissa, which is, I think it's really cool to see you guys, practice what you preach, and even for your child, which I think is hard. It's hard because there's probably a lot of people on the outside saying, oh, I can't believe you don't give your child cupcake or Kool-Aid or Capri Sun or things like that. But when it comes down to it, you are looking out for your child's health. But the question is, what about when he gets older? He goes to school, he goes to friends' houses, what at that point?
So I have complete control. My child is 2.5 years old. I have complete control over his diet, his caregivers, his grandparents, anybody that comes into contact with him on a regular basis knows the way that we eat and completely respects the way that we eat, and will only give him the food that we want to give him. So I have complete control over what he eats. At some point, I will not. And we will cross that bridge when we come to it, right? At some point, like, believe me, I'm not going to freak out if the kid, like, goes to a birthday party and indulges in, like, a cupcake. Fine, so be it. We'll figure out if he's got any food sensitivities. We do know that he has some sensitivities to certain foods, and they give him eczema. So, we'll kind of cross that bridge when we come to it. But the idea of saying like, well, at some point he's going to be exposed to these foods, so why be so strict now? Like, that is foolishness. Why would I not want to feed my child as best as I possibly could in the manner that I think is the healthiest for him now while I can? And then at some point we'll deal with the fact that like he's going to be exposed to some of these things, and we'll have the conversations, we'll talk about, hey, when you ate that cupcake, like, remember how and this is how I encourage parents to talk to their kids who are younger, like, hey, you ate the cupcake and when you came home, you had a fight with your sister and I had to put you in timeout. I think when you eat cupcakes, it makes you kind of cranky. Remember how yesterday for a snack, when we had like ants on a log and you played really nicely and you got to read an extra book? I think ants on a log make you really happy. Like, you can draw these connections for them and hope that they continue to make good choices while they're with you and when they have the opportunity. And then when they don't, like, unless there's a serious food sensitivity or an allergy where you have to be really strict, I'm just going to have to roll with it, and we'll figure out what that looks like. We were at the park and there was a little kid feeding the ducks, and Atticus went over to grab some bread to feed the ducks. He like borrowed a couple pieces of bread to feed the ducks, and was feeding the ducks and breaking off a piece and throwing it and breaking off a piece. And he broke off a piece and looked at it, and I was like, oh no. And he popped it right in his mouth. And I was like, all right, there
it is.
First exposure to gluten. Yep. Like, it happens, I know that the same thing happened when he was out with Dallas one day. Like, it happens. We don't freak out about it, but I'm going to do the best I can for him with the knowledge that I have while I have control over what he eats. And he's a happy kid. If you gave him the choice between a cupcake and like bacon, he would take the bacon 100% of the time.
And I think that's really cool because we kind of have the same approach. For those of you who don't know, I do all the cooking in our family. And so when my kids are at home, I can control what they eat. They eat what I make them. But I know when they go out, they're going to be exposed to other foods. And yeah, if they had the choice between broccoli and cupcakes, they're going to choose the cupcakes at school, for example. Yeah. And I don't freak out about it. But if I can just control what they eat when they're at home, it makes me feel more comfortable that we're still instilling these habits. And we talk about why these foods are good for them. Not just, hey, eat your broccoli because I told you to. we don't take that approach. We try and explain the why on a very basic level to our kids who are growing up older now. They're 6 and 4. But I think that's a good approach and good advice for anybody that has kids. And just don't do the best you can. Don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, we have a series of articles on whole30.com all geared towards like changing your kids over to this way of eating too. If you are doing the Whole30 for the first time and you want to get your family on board, like what are some different approaches you can take, how to judge by your kids' kind of personalities and temperaments, whether you go all in or ease them into it, the pros and cons of each approaches. So we've addressed this in detail as well on the website because we know it's a really hot topic for people.
Okay, so I have a question that I don't want to have come across a bad way, so hopefully it doesn't. But this has been, I think, the biggest thing on my mind, and maybe it's been the biggest thing that has prevented me from wanting to try to do my own Whole30. Aside from the fact that obviously most of the stuff I love is not Whole30 approved. But
right.
I mean, totally, that aside, my big thing is a lot of times when I go on to the Whole30 community, which has, of course, let me preface this with so many benefits, like people are so loving and supportive and helpful and try this or try that or encouraging, which I really like. But a lot of times I see people that are like doing like a Whole60, a Whole90, a Whole80, a whole life. And it almost seems, in my opinion, or from my view, sometimes because somebody will, have a soy milk and they'll be like, did you make sure that it didn't have this one thing in it? Like almost obsessive, which in my perception kind of takes away from the concept that they're having a positive relationship with food. Do you feel like sometimes people take the program too far and turn it into something that it wasn't meant to be?
Yes, I do. Yeah. And when you have literally, we've run like hundreds of thousands of people through this program. And anytime it sort of spreads that big and that far, you're going to have people who, like a little bit of a game of telephone, they sort of hear it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend, and maybe they don't understand the spirit or intention. Maybe they got such amazing results that they start kind of proselytizing. I think anytime somebody starts a new fitness or health effort that really works for them, they can become very excited and their intentions are good, but I think you see it with CrossFit as well, where they just become like, everybody should do this and it should be perfect. I do think you get people who misunderstand that this is designed to be a short-term dietary reset. And there's this kind of mentality in the health and fitness world that if some is good, more is better. And more isn't better. Better is better, right? So I want you to take a Whole30 and think, well, that worked great, right? So I'm going to do a Whole60, a Whole90, a Whole365. There are reasons that people might want to extend their program. If you've got a chronic illness, if you've got an autoimmune condition and 30 days on the protocol isn't quite enough to see the results you want to see, there are some, reasons that you might want to extend it. But at some point, it's not designed to be the Whole365. I want you to come off the program, do the reintroduction, figure out how these foods impact you, because you have to turn this into something you can sustain for the rest of your life. And you can't do that if you're always kind of relying on our rules to make decisions for you. So yeah, I do see that a lot in the community. And I know that sometimes people's enthusiasm can maybe be a bit of a turnoff. And I always give people the benefit of the doubt. I truly believe it's coming from a good place where they're just so passionate about the program and they want to help others succeed. And they're really invested in, the rules and the protocol. And I think if you kind of come into the community, and I'm a big fan online in general of giving someone the benefit of the doubt. If someone comes off as rude or short or kind of aggressive, I always just say, maybe this person isn't that comfortable in a forum environment. Maybe they're kind of new to the internet. I see that from a lot of people in my mom's generation, where they don't understand that typing in all caps means you're shouting. Or maybe they're just so excited, right?
Right.
Or maybe they're just so excited about the program and they really want to help you succeed. So when you tell them that you had almond milk and they said, did you make sure it didn't have carrageenan? Thank you so much. I really appreciate your attention to detail and how much you care that I'm doing a good job with the program. And that's how I like to approach it, because I truly believe that people have the best of intentions with this. They're just really excited about the results that they're getting and want to share it with everybody.
So to clarify for those that don't know this answer, and I do Do you eat Whole30 all the time, personally?
No, of course I don't. No, I practice what I preach. I've done 6 or 7 or 8, maybe Whole30s over the course of the last 6 years since we first created the program. I've learned something about how food interacts with me through every single one. My definition of what's worth it has changed quite a bit over the years. Things that I used to consider treats 3 years ago, now I look at and say, meh, it's like not delicious enough. It's not worth it enough. It makes me feel not great enough that it's, not worth reintroducing, but I do not. I used what I learned on the Whole30 and make conscious, deliberate decisions about the stuff that is less healthy, but I think is so delicious or special or rewarding or, culturally or family significant that it's worth me eating something that makes me less healthy. And that's how I live my life. I may go a couple days without eating anything off plan, or I may go on vacation to Mexico and eat off-plan stuff and drink a margarita every single day. And like both of those contexts are okay as long as I'm making conscious, deliberate decisions. Yeah, yes. That was my last Mexico trip. Literally,
yeah, I'm guessing that was a
I loved every sip of it. Yep.
This is why I love you. Yes. No, and I love that. I love that this really is meant to be, and in the context of what the program is meant to be, it is meant to, like you said, to learn about your body, to learn about what foods are doing to your body. And I think that is so crucial for everybody. And so I have recommended, even though I haven't done it personally, I have recommended for people to do a Whole30 and do the reintroduction and say, it sounds like from what you've told me that dairy has been affecting you adversely, or grains have been affecting you adversely. Why don't you try a Whole30 and reintroduce and see, how your body's feeling? So I love that.
Yeah.
So from here then, you guys have 2 best-selling books, an amazing program. Your reach on social media and the amount of people worldwide that have done the Whole30 is phenomenal. What's next? Do you have a new project you're working on? Like, how do you foresee Whole30 unfolding from here?
Yeah, we've got a few projects we're working on right now. From a strictly Whole30 perspective, we're gearing up for the January Whole30 already. So January 1st, we always do kind of a big site-wide group Whole30. And this year, I think, is going to be the biggest year yet. Obviously, our audience just continues to grow. So we're gearing up for what that's going to look like and bringing some great partners on board. We've got a new resource rolling out within the next month or so, geared specifically towards women. I'm gonna leak it here, but we've got a resource rolling out related to pregnancy. Yeah.
Oh
so
my
we're
gosh.
really excited. Yes.
Sorry, that was my loud, excited voice.
And I'm not gonna get into. Yeah, I won't get into too much detail, but it's basically gonna be amazing. And it's not just about the Whole30 and pregnancy. It's about getting pregnant and being pregnant in the healthiest way possible from a huge big picture perspective. So we discuss not just diet and, we talk about exercise, we talk about alignment, we're talking about conversations to have with your partner, we're talking about newborn procedures, basically big picture health to promote optimal growth and development for your baby, but also a happy, healthy pregnancy that you actually get to enjoy. So we'll be rolling that out within the next, I'd say, month and a half. We're working on a really cool project that's going to get some more boots on the ground support for people within their local communities for Whole30, so they don't have to rely on our online resources. So that's something we're working on for next year. And I'm just continuing to kind of travel and speak and talk about all these various kind of niche topics related to Whole30, like how to talk to family and friends, how to kind of preserve your willpower around the holidays. I'll be doing a session in New York City in December on that, which will be really fun. So yeah, we're keeping busy.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you so much for letting us know about that.
Oh man, I love the big project with the pregnancy. That's amazing. Well, it's going to be huge.
Yeah. For me, I'm not planning on getting pregnant, but
what? I thought we talked about this.
I know. I think that's really cool that there's so many, for women, obviously it's geared more towards women, right? But I think it's going to be
geared more towards women. Well, except for those select
Well, maybe there could be a part about
know.
how to be a supportive husband and not gain the sympathy weight, Anyways. Okay.
Sure.
One last question before we get into the lightning round. And this is one that I think is, we get asked a lot. And it has to do with like staying healthy out in public. If you have an active social life and you're going out and your family and your friends aren't as healthy, or they're not on the Whole30, and you want to have an active social life, what are your tips that you tell people to do to stay healthy when you have this active social life, like going out and drinking and eating out all the time? What are your tips for someone like that?
So I definitely don't want you to turn into like a health hermit or like a Whole30 hermit, right? Like we don't want you to do this healthy eating protocol and then feel like you can't go out and socialize because there's going to be less healthy food. So part of it is having discussions with your family and friends ahead of time, not when you're at the restaurant with the cheesy nachos in front of you. That is not the time to have a discussion about your healthy eating plan. But ahead of time, you're having this conversation with friends and family about, look, this is what this is kind of this protocol that I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. And you talk about your really personal reasons for wanting to make yourself healthier. You're not going to say like, oh, I'm doing this Whole30 protocol because I hear it can be really good for hormones. That's not particularly convincing. If you say, look, family and friends, like I feel like every day at 3 p.m. I have to rely on like a Diet Coke and a candy bar to get me through. And that makes me not feel very good about myself. And it promotes cravings that make me feel like I'm out of control with my food choices. And when I eat like this, I feel like I'm in control. These are the kinds of conversations you have that can enroll people in this way of eating and can set the expectation that when you go out, you'll be ordering food a little bit differently than you usually do. When you get out in public, remember that these interactions are not about the food or drink. When colleagues invite you out for happy hour, it's not so that you can specifically drink alcohol. It's so that you can go out with your colleagues and enjoy the camaraderie and the laughs and like unwind after the tension of a difficult day. And it doesn't matter what's in your glass. You can have this same rewarding, stress-mediating social experience, whether you have water or beer, whether you have pizza on your plate or a salad, like it doesn't matter. And the less a big deal you make out of this in social situations, the less a big deal everybody else is going to make. So if you go to the bar and you are all awkward about it and like, oh, I know it's so weird that I'm not drinking. I'm so sorry. It's so weird. I'm just having water. Like, you're going to draw attention to that. If you walk up to the bar and say, can I have a club soda with a lime, and act like it ain't no thing, nobody's going to make a big deal. Like, people are not as obsessed with what you particularly are eating or drinking as you make it out to be in your head. So those are some of my best tips for staying social and still being healthy, because that's exactly what I want you to do. I want you to get out there and enjoy those experiences and then stick to what you think is going to be the healthiest diet for you at the same time.
Yeah. And you know what? People will probably be shocked at this because most people know me as the crazy foodie. I Snapchat donuts constantly. But a couple years ago, my sister that has type 2 diabetes asked if I would do a 30-day, no dairy, no grains, and no sugar. And it happened to be the month of Christmas. And when your sister, who's your best friend, asks you to do that, you say, hell yes. So I did. I went the entire month of December without any of those things and without sugar in the month that it's like sugar land. And you know what's funny is people ask me like, didn't everybody give you such a hard time? And I'm like, I never made it a point to make it an issue. I never pointed out, look, I'm not eating cake. Look, I'm not eating this. I literally would make a plate of the things I could eat. I would socialize. I'd have fun. And no one noticed that the entire month of December, I did not have one dessert. I mean, it like you said, it is only a big deal if you make it a big deal. So if you don't want the attention, if you don't want people razzing you about what you are or aren't eating, don't make it a big deal.
No, I think that's so true. And I think the most important thing that you touched on, Melissa, also was letting people know what you're doing, this protocol, this new lifestyle that you're trying to live. The more people you tell about it, the more people you have to keep you accountable. And then hopefully your friends that are your good friends, that are your real friends, would actually be supportive. Unfortunately, there are times where people are going to try and sabotage you or are going to try and pressure you. But really, are those the kinds of friends that you want to have to push you in the wrong direction? I mean, that's the thing is you find out who your support system is when you are vocal about your goals. right? You find out who your support system is and who your support system is not. And I think that's really important that you touched on that, is telling people beforehand, not once you get there and the nachos and the cupcakes are in your face, but beforehand. So people.
Well, and it's also not saying, oh, did you guys just order nachos? Did you know that's really unhealthy?
Oh, yeah. Not being preachy about it. People.
Did you know? Okay, so we are getting, all this information was so great, but we are getting into my favorite part of the show called the lightning round. As we wrap up, I'm going to ask Melissa 5 very unimportant questions. And she gets no time to prepare. She must answer them as quickly as possible with the first thing that comes into her mind. It is a lot of pressure.
Oh, man.
But are you ready?
I'm going to do some toe touches, and then I'm going to be totally ready. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay.
Stretch.
I think I'm ready.
Okay, you're ready. Okay. What hair products do you use?
Hairspray, that's it.
Lies. Are you serious?
Literally, that's it. No, I'm serious. I don't use any mousse or gel, or I just use hairspray. That's it.
Okay, that was deflating. Oh my gosh. Okay. Have you ever made paleo pancakes?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I love it.
That's cool.
I love it. Okay.
So hold on a second before you get to the next question. Is that, what's your biggest pet peeve about the paleo industry? Is it like all the treats and things that people try and fit into the paleo industry?
No,
I'm just curious.
I don't know. It's not that people make that stuff, because I think there's actually a pretty legitimate reason for saying, like, hey, here are some alternatives to some less healthy foods that, you can eat if you've got a sensitivity. I think my biggest pet peeve with paleo is often how it's perceived in the media. People like to report on the sexiest aspects of it. So you get this idea that paleo is, super carnivorous, or, meat only, or it's really nutrient deficient, or it's really extreme, or it's about reenactment, or yes, that like paleo is all about, paleo bread and paleo pasta and paleo pancakes. And like, that's often coming from the way that it's depicted. And so that's, obviously I take a look at some of the things that these bloggers are recreating, and it's like paleo, like, Twix center, magic shell covered whoopie pies. And I'm like, really? Is that what,
amazing.
Is that what this community needs? I know you think it does. I know you do. But yeah, I made paleo pancakes for Christmas one year. A couple years ago, I made paleo pancakes for Christmas. I did. I've probably made them maybe 3 times in my whole life, though. I'm not a pancake person.
I love it. Okay, what was your last dessert, and when was it? Last dessert, when was it?
Yesterday. Yesterday I had cupcakes. I was having a bad week, and a girlfriend of mine literally mailed me a box of cupcakes. Like, put them in the mail. And maybe I'll send you a picture of what they showed up looking like for your show notes, because they looked exactly like you would expect cupcakes that went through the mail to look like. Yeah. But I ate the crap out of them anyway, and they were amazing.
And can I just say that she must be a best friend. Like, any friend that ships me cupcakes is a friend for life. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. They were even gluten-free, which I appreciated. So I had cupcakes yesterday, and they were worth it. Every last bite was worth it. And I ate what I wanted to, mostly the frosting. And then the rest of it, I left.
Fantastic. Okay. Most embarrassing moment.
Yep.
Most
like
embarrassing
ever in my whole life?
Oh yeah. First thing that comes to mind. First thing.
All right. Okay. Well, I'll tell you the most recent story. So I'm having a call with the CEO of Tessie Mae's, right? He's the big salad dressing company. I'm on a business call with him talking about stuff. And it was wintertime, and I had a cold and my nose started to run. So I'm at Whole Foods. I go into the bathroom to get a tissue to blow my nose while we're talking. I am unrolling the toilet paper to blow my nose. And as I walk out of the stall, my body unblocked the automatic flusher, and a very loud toilet flush came immediately through the telephone call. So basically,
it sounded like you were pooping while on the phone.
The CEO of Tessie Mae's assumed that I was peeing or pooping when we were on our very important conference call. That was horrifically embarrassing.
That is so funny.
That is wonderful.
Yeah, I tried to explain, but I don't think he was totally cool about it. But I was like, wow, that was awful, and I can't do anything about it.
Explaining it is almost worse. You're like, I wasn't on the toilet. I was just in the toilet stall.
I was just blowing my nose.
I know. It was really bad. So there you go.
Okay. Last question. Drew wrote this one.
Okay. If if you could punch anyone in the face right now, who would it be and why?
It could even be a celebrity if you want it to be.
It could be a celebrity. It could be.
I'm gonna go Jewel. I've really always hated her. I've
Jewel?
really always hated her.
She has such a nice voice.
She's terrible.
What?
She's like her terrible songs and her poems and stuff. Ugh. She needs to get on a bus that needs to get rolled off a cliff. No, she's who I would punch in the face.
Okay, but what if she does a Whole30? Then will you like her better?
If Jewel reaches out to do a Whole30, I'm gonna laugh. I'm gonna love that.
Oh, if she promises to not, it'll be basically a Whole30 plus no poems for 30 days. That would be my rule.
Yeah, you are so funny, Melissa. That's awesome. Okay, and last question, because we ask this to every single person, and I already know the answer, but I have to ask you: would you ever do a fit to fat to fit journey?
Never. Nope.
Never. Why not?
Never.
Why?
Because I love what you did. I love what you did because I love how it not only changed your mindset, but because you were able to sort of share your journey with other people and show your empathy and kind of convey that to others. I love what you did, but I could never do something that was that purposefully unhealthy to my body. Like I couldn't.
Yeah. No, I totally get it.
Even if it was for, if it was like for charity or something, maybe like if it was for a but you've already done it and you've already shared the lesson. So no, I don't think I could, man. I don't think I could.
Yeah.
No, I'm just curious. I ask everybody on the show and so far everyone said no. So I'm kind of bummed out, but
right.
The thing is, I did learn a lot from it. I did learn so much from it, and kind of like Whole30 teaches you how to have a healthy relationship with food. I kind of did the opposite, where I learned how bad an unhealthy relationship with food affects you, not so much as far as weight gain. Like I had the man boobs, of course, and the big gut, but more so on a mental and emotional level that I never would have understood had I not done it. So for me, I have no regrets doing it. So that's why I tell people, like, I did what I did and I learned so much from it. I'm a different person. I have a different perspective. I definitely have empathy now. Would I do it again? No. But I'm curious to know if anyone else out there would do it to gain a better understanding. So I'm still trying to find someone that will say yes, but
keep searching, my friend. Keep searching.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
that was the part about your journey. I was just gonna say that was the part about your journey that I admired the most, was how upfront and honest you were about the emotional toll that it took on you, and how, I think as a woman, I already have a pretty darn good idea of what an unhealthy relationship with food feels like and the emotional toll it takes on like my psyche and my body image. And I can do that without gaining 75 pounds. I can do that just with falling back into sort of old habits and old emotional relationships with food. So I think as a man, it was really powerful to read that you had a similar response. So yeah, I love that you did it, so I don't have to.
Yeah, absolutely. So for anybody that wants to follow you, which they should, your actual, even though Whole30, you can put that social media stuff in there too, but your personal page is my favorite because it's fun and snarky like me. And where can people find you and follow you? What are your social media handles, all that good stuff?
Yeah. So if you want to connect with me, I'm really active. I'm still really active personally on the Whole30 social media. I stay connected to people there. So we're just at Whole30 on everything: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, you name it. You can connect with me personally on Instagram. That's my most active platform. It's Melissa_Hartwig. And since that's my personal feed, you do tend to see a bit more of my personal life. You see more of my personality, which tends to be, I have a really dark and sarcastic sense of humor.
I love it.
Sometimes, I tend to be a little bit more upfront with my personality on that feed. So it's not for everyone, but yeah, so you can connect with me there. I just started a Twitter account, Melissa_Hartwig_, that I'm just starting to use, doing some kind of experimenting with some Periscope broadcasts at Melissa Hartwig, but mostly Instagram. That's my most active social platform.
And we're going to put all of those social media handles for both Whole30 and Melissa in the show notes. So make sure to check those out.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for joining us today on today's podcast. We loved having you, and we will have you back on again. And next time we will have to do it in person with you out in Hawaii visiting us.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I plan on that sometime in the winter when I'm feeling dark and sad, for sure.
There's always a warm spot for you right next to me in bed, Melissa.
Yeah. Yay,
no comment. I guess I'll be sleeping on the
Drew,
couch.
we'll even let you hang out with us.
Yeah, for
A little
sure.
bit. You can hang out with us a little bit, mostly just to go get us food. Can you go get us some food and then go away?
I'm used to that, by the way. Anyways, thank you so much, Melissa. We love having you. We love you. You're an awesome person, and we love what you do. So thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much. That was really, really fun. Hopefully my speed round questions weren't too disappointing.
They were amazing.
Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. Please leave us a review on iTunes if you liked today's episode. Please subscribe, share it with your friends and family. Please leave us a 5-star rating. We definitely appreciate all the support you guys can give us.
Hopefully you guys learned something from that episode, and hopefully you also had fun too. As you know, we usually interview people we're friends with, so we have a little bit of fun, snarky humor in there, but also a lot of education that can hopefully be, implemented into your life. If you guys have specific topics that you want us to talk about or specific people you want us to interview, definitely make sure to leave a comment. Let us know so we know what you want to hear.
Yes, and please stay in touch with us on social media. All of my handles are at fit2fat2fit, and my website is fit2fat2fit.com, and you can sign up for the newsletter there.
And all of my social media handles are the number 2 Fit at Home, and my website is the number 2 fitathome.com.
We love you guys and appreciate you guys, and we'll see you back here next week for another amazing episode of the Fit to Fat to Fit Experience podcast.
See you next Tuesday.